As a careful reader and conservative who has personally taught at an HBCU, I do comprehend your comments about Black students in higher education. Why were your comments mischaracterized by your fellow academics and others as racist?
Well, first of all, let me just address the term racist. The term is used very prolifically and very promiscuously in the current atmosphere. It's thrown around as a weapon. And when people are called racist, they usually tremble and retreat because, in some quarters, it's the worst thing you can be called. But my view of it is that the word is ill-defined. When I ask people, why do you call me racist? Can you define the term? They can't. And when I do get a definition, I get, something different every time. That's made me a lot, less wary of that term. I think it is a fertile ground for abuse and misuse. And I've been called it so much that it's kind of lost its sting. So I do not, it depends on your definition. Am I a racist? Am I not a racist? I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. I really have to tell you. I spend a lot of time worrying about the future of our republic. I spend time worrying about the quality and honesty and integrity of academia, about the decline of our civilization, about the abandonment of Western values, about the dilution of the meritocracy, which is a very important part of our strength as a country, as a high achieving part of the globe. Those are the things that I worry about. The racism label is something that just doesn't keep me up at night, I have to tell you honestly.
And part of this was statistics, wasn't it, in terms of what exactly was the performance of different groups in your school? Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, the point I was making, this was a conversation with Glenn Lowry, who is a black professor at Brown, an economics professor, very intelligent man, very wide interests. One of his interests is obviously the future of Black America, affirmative action, how affirmative action works, what its consequences are. And we were talking about some of the downsides of affirmative action. One of the downsides, of course, is that blacks are overplaced through affirmative action. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that end up attending schools that where the average student has higher scores, is more academically capable than they are. And part of the consequences of that, and we can discuss and argue about the consequences of that, whether they're good or bad. And I didn't sit there saying, "Oh, it's all bad." There's arguments to be made on both sides. I said one of the downsides of that is that they struggle to do well academically. That's just kind of what you would expect, right? I mean, if you are someone with a 650 math SAT, which is actually pretty good, and you're put in a class where everybody has an 800, at MIT or wherever, you are going to face an uphill struggle. You are very likely you're going to probably not get an A, maybe not even get a B, because the course is geared to the 800 person. But if you went to a small college where the averages were in the 600s, you might actually paradoxically learn more. That's called the mismatch effect. That's different from the overplacement effect. The mismatch effect, which has been described, is that if you are overplaced, not only will you do relatively poorly, but you'll actually learn less than if you go to a place where you're well matched to the other people because of, maybe there's a discouragement effect, or maybe it's all going to fly over your head. I don't know, but nobody really wants to look at it because they don't want to acknowledge it. Now, this is all a perfectly valid set of discussions and concerns about affirmative action, pro and con. As I tell my students, this is a policy question. Are we going to have affirmative action? So we ought to be able to discuss all of the aspects of it without becoming hysterical. But weirdly enough, these schools have decided that the proper tactic is to just bury and hide the truth, which is the, underachievement, so to speak, of a lower grade pattern of affirmative action admits. They think that somehow by hiding that, people aren't going to find out. Well, I have news for you. The law firms know it. The judges know it. The people who, whose maw we're feeding. We're an HR department for all these people, of course. They know it. They end up overplacing students anyway because they're under pressure to engage in affirmative action. But at the end of the day, it does not end very well. Because sooner or later the buck stops, as you know. But these are valid conversations. But it was quite strongly signaled to me through my dean bringing charges against me and other attempts to penalize me and sanction me that this could not be said on campus.